Hey everybody, John Malanca with United Page Group. Be informed and be well. And I have a longtime dear friend and special guest, Diana Pena from Myriam's Hemp. Many of you have probably seen her not only on our podcast, but also on the Sacred Plant, which I was the host and co-creator and now owner of. So great to see you again, Diana. How are you?
It's really good to see you too. I'm doing really well. Thank you so
Good,
much for
good.
having me.
Love the little pup behind you. Is he still behind you or did he get up and leave? He's there.
Yeah, he's right
Yeah.
there. He's chewing
So
on his blanket.
good. So the reason I have Diane on today, it's almost a public service announcement. As we've seen this cannabis industry grow, the hemp industry grow, a lot of changes, good, bad, still in the gray area, and a lot of, um, I guess, laws that are being made without really knowing and understanding the background about this plant, hemp, as well as cannabis, and the benefits that it offers. And this is something that Corinne and I would always discuss is before laws are made, I truly believe lawmakers need to take a class, a course, to really understand the benefits of this plant. We are all touched personally with some ailments, if it's our loved ones, our coworkers, or ourselves. And when you go through something like this, you truly depend on a safe, tested product. There are quite a few. I mean, the cannabis and CBD market, hemp CBD market, has blown up over the years, and having a standard and companies that you can trust is very important. Diana and Miriam's Hemp is one of those. The reason I have Diana on the show today is because there is a bill that's about to be passed or being looked at. It's called here in California, Bill AB 2223. It's Governor Gavin Newsom is heading that. Currently, it was put on pause, but on the 16th of this month, they're going to look at it again. And so, can you talk about that? Because it does impact not only Californians, about 5.4 million Californians, but families, veterans, senior citizens, as well as all the hemp products that are here in California. And the reason we're talking about it, it doesn't just affect California. This could be a domino effect around the United States, and affecting many people. And so, can you talk about what you and some other the top hemp CBD companies are going through right now?
Sure. So there was a bill that was introduced, like John said, AB 2223. And initially, the bill is basically put in place because for a good reason, because they want to regulate. There's this whole market with Delta 8 products, and Delta 8 is made from CBD. However, it's made synthetically with chemicals. It's not really regulated. It's available everywhere. And there's been a lot of, I guess, cases reported of people ending up in the ER. And so they're having a lot of issues with this particular product, which is actually banned in a few states. Like here, I'm in Nevada. Nevada, you can't sell or you can't, it's banned here in Nevada. So it's not just California that's trying to do this. They've already done this in other states. However, what they're trying to do in California, which they've tried to do in Florida recently. I know that in Virginia and Colorado, they also worked out there, but they were able to save the hemp out of those bills. So it's not just California. This is something that will literally have a ripple effect throughout the whole country. And so what they're trying to do is they're trying to regulate and not make Delta 8 available and make it where you can only get it through a dispensary. However, what they're doing is they're lumping in all full spectrum products, meaning everything that we carry and that we make won't be available and legal in California unless you get it through a dispensary. The problem with that is that so what basically what they to kind of explain what they did is they're saying that they don't want they're going to limit the THC in products, basically making it only legal if it's an isolate. As John, you know, and I myself know that isolates typically are not what works for most people, especially when they're dealing with very serious ailments, epilepsy, autism, cancer. Most people will respond very well to full spectrum products. And so they're not differentiating the two. They're basically lumping in everything together. We kind of call it like we're really kind of collateral damage to this one particular product. And so what we've been doing, and a lot of the Dr. Goldstein has gone up to Sacramento last month. Paige Figge's doing a ton of work with this. We're really explaining to them, and which is why we had Dr. Goldstein, to explain the science and to make them understand this is why, we need full spectrum versus, and you can't take this away from these people, because it's going to be detrimental. And so we're explaining to them that they need to carve out something in the bill where they can exclude out the CBD products. And so that's kind of where we're at right now. We did have a hearing yesterday, and the bill was actually, it was temporarily suspended, meaning, and which is good. So there's a lot of people, because they were getting inundated with phone calls and emails, from families and everybody saying, you can't take this away. And so it's having an impact. So doing things like this are having an impact because they're hearing it. So we won't know until the 16th of this month, which is a couple days from now, what's going to happen. Are they going to keep it suspended? They're not going to look at it till next year, or are they going to try to figure out how to carve out an amendment to keep our products out of that bill? And so we've been doing a lot of work, mainly just trying to get the word out there, letting people know, hey, this is going to affect you. And even if you don't live in California, it will have a ripple effect, because there's actually a bill federally right now. And I think it's called the I'm so sorry, I don't have the name right now, but there's actually pretty much a very similar bill that was introduced in May that is looking to do exactly the same thing nationwide. So this is a big deal.
And can you, before we go even further into this, can you share what isolate means, what full spectrum means, and the difference between Delta 8 and Delta 9? If that does affect you, I know it really doesn't affect the CBD market which you're in, but can you talk about basically what an isolate is? Because a lot of families I work with, CBD is CBD is CBD.
Yeah.
And it does affect with the terpenes, the other cannabinoids, the entourage effect. Corinne would always discuss the entourage effect is needed. It's like baking a cake and leaving the eggs or flour or water out of there. And
exactly.
That's
such a perfect example that's a perfect analogy.
Yeah.
But so basically an isolate is just that particular cannabinoid by itself. No terpenes, no phytocannabinoids, no terpenoids, nothing except just that cannabinoid. So there's products that you use, there is a use for those particular products. A lot of times you'll see like vape, sometimes vape pens are made with that. Some edibles, you see are being made with. So there is a market for isolates. It's just not what our type of our patient base works for our patient base. Doesn't mean that it doesn't have a use. It does have a use in a different space and different types of products. Full spectrum means that the plant, it's basically the way that it's naturally made by the plant. So it has not just the main cannabinoid, whether it's CBD, THC, CBG, whatever the main cannabinoid is, it has all the other cannabinoids in it as well. So like when you look at a COA, you'll see that that main cannabinoid will have the highest potency, and then you'll see that there'll be other minor cannabinoids that will be in there as well, along with terpenes, which are also important, along with other flavonoids, phytocannabinoids. So all of that makes it a full spectrum. And
you mentioned, just before we go on, you mentioned COA, and for our audience that does know that, it's a certificate of analysis, basically when you're testing the product. And this is something that I have stood by. Myriam's Hope was the previous name, but Myriam's Hemp, Diana, and Jeff and team. Why I trusted their products is because not only did they have the COA, the certificate of analysis, but they tested their products in raw form for mold, pesticides, metals, etc. And then they made it into the oil, and they would even take it a step further and test again to make sure what was in that oil or product for the patient was exactly what was there. We and they work with a lot of immune compromised patients. Back up on the why an isolate versus a full spectrum is important. You work with a lot of families with seizures, epilepsy. Um, you can have success with an isolate, with a CBD isolate
Mhm.
on families. But if you add, I'm going to say 1 milligram, 2 milligrams of THC, bringing on that entourage effect, that number could and has, I have seen it from 12 to 20% up to 70%, just when you add another cannabinoid in there. And so what this law would do would affect a lot of these companies that are out there, and unfortunately would bring on the black market of people making a product without a COA, which Diana was talking about. And
Mhm.
so they are doing everything by the book, following the rules, and they work with top doctors like Dr. Bonnie Goldstein, who I would trust with my child or my family member. And so the
Right.
same thing, it's a nice collaboration with a well-known, world-renowned doctor, as well as a company like Diana's Myriam's Hemp. Um, I know I cut you off there, but I just wanted for our audience member to know what a COA and the importance of a COA, that from day one, you guys have been doing that even before it was, I guess, needed, or the laws, regulations. I mean, nowadays, pretty much all companies have it, but you were doing it before it was, I guess, a law.
Yeah, I'm honestly, I think that's really what got Dr. Goldstein to trust us. Because she initially was with Charlotte's Web, kind of like their spokesperson, I feel like, in a way. I don't want to say she was officially, but yeah, and I think, and so when she knew about us, I know that she says the same thing. We were one of the first people that we were showing, and we were showing, we were making them, we've always made them public. We've always gave them to whenever people were requested them. So that's kind of the issue with some of these other companies that are selling Delta 8. But however, the thing is, John, that it's not just particularly the Delta 8. If you notice, if you look at some of these companies that carry Delta 8,
Yeah.
the crazy marketing schemes that they're doing to sell flower online, like real THC flower, and they're calling it THCA flower. I'm like, what are you, that's flower. Like, so that's the problem too. It's just that they're finding these like loopholes, and basically they're selling these products that are technically not really legal because they can get you high. So they market these, like, I mean, the THC flower is probably probably the most ridiculous thing I've seen. And I'm like, how are these companies blatantly selling flower and they're calling it THC flower? I'm like, no, I'm sorry, THCA flower. And I'm like, it's all THCA, and then you burn it, and then
Converts.
it converts to THC. Like, what are you talking about? So it's just funny. But so that's part of the reason why too, is it's the Delta 8, that's the main thing. But then there's all these other products that are being disguised as hemp, but they're products that can get people high. And they're getting in the hands of kids. And I just know that they're having a lot of issues with that. Where with our types of products, these are products that most of our customer base, they're coming from a doctor or a nurse. So they're not using these to get high. And if they do get high, I'm not saying it can't happen. It's usually because they might have accidentally taken too much. I've heard many times scenarios where one parent gives a kid the dose, the parent didn't communicate to the other one, the parent gives the kid more. That's happened a few times. I've seen that happen. So yes, can you possibly get high with these products? Yes, you can. However, they're not being marketed for that, and we don't really have that issue. And when it does happen, it's very seldom, because most of the people that are using this, they're using it under the guidance of a nurse or a doctor. People that are buying Delta 8 at a gas station, at anywhere, they're not using it under the supervision of a doctor. I'm not saying that some people aren't, but most people are just using this really just recreationally to get high.
So for the audience that's listening and talking about the, I guess the Bill AB 2223, you're asking for community support, and you want everyone to come together, drive change, protect these essential products, as you and I discussed, is a number one thing. But also the call to action is encourage supporters. What would you like them to do to learn more about this bill, uh,
Yeah.
potential consequences, what they can do to take action? I know you have um, um, information on how to reach the governor's office. Is he open to this? Because I know that he's kind of been flippy floppy even back when he used the cannabis bill, the platform to get nominated as governor. And to me, and we don't need to go into that, he kind of turned his back on that. And so, is he pro? Uh,
Well, we know that there's a lot of major cannabis players that are supporting this bill because they want the CBD to go through the dispensaries, right? Because they think that companies like us are going to put our products in dispensaries, and we're not. Charlotte's Web said the same thing. We're not putting our products in those dispensaries.
yeah,
So although they think that this is going to cause all of us to go through the whole um, cannabis line now, or the whole cannabis structure in California, it's not. We're just going to pull out completely out of California. So that's the detrimental effect that it's going to have, is that yeah, you might get some CBD companies that will be available in dispensaries, but they're not going to be a lot what with a lot of these products that these customers need, right? Um, they're also not going to, they're going to be way more expensive than
and
what they're getting
that
through us.
that alone,
That alone is a huge thing.
you you hear so many patients, at least we do here when people call, it just, I can't afford it, my insurance, or I have to pay rent, I have to pay my bills. When you're battling something as severe as cancer or anything, and it's not covered by insurance, it's expensive. But
Mhm.
many people are able, or I should say many people will do anything to
Yeah,
uh, I guess fight whatever you're going through,
yeah.
and sometimes many people aren't. And so even in the cannabis world, it's turned to the black market because they can't afford the taxes that you have here in California. And they're still buying it from reputable growers, but they're not, the growers are saying, we're not going through the dispensaries anymore. So it's kind of,
Oh yeah, of course.
it's ruining the system. And so to hear that you and Charlotte's Web may pull out of California, as sad as that is, maybe this is what needs to be done to say, you know what, we've been helping patients. The thing about your company is that on all of your products, you have the COAs attached to the product and the lot number, and so you know exactly what's going on, where it is. You talked about a family, the mother giving it to the child, and then the father giving it to the child, and then like, oh, I already gave it, like feeding the dog. It's like, did you feed the
Yeah,
dog? Yeah, well, so did I. And
yeah.
so that's why I'd say journaling is so important. I share that with everybody. But basically, what we do here, and as well as you, is educating the patient, the consumer, the doctor, of the benefits of this miraculous plant, and doing it right. Um, Governor Newsom's role is in this, and so again, is he looking to support? Does he want? Is he trying to move everybody into dispensaries, or what's his stance on this?
Well, I mean, from what I understand, I think that he's, because there's been so many people that, right. So initially that's what they wanted to do. The bill wasn't actually introduced by her name, it's a lady, her name's something Curry. She was the one who initially introduced the bill.
Mhm.
And now it moved on. Now it's going to Gavin Newsom. My understanding is that I know that they want to put it in dispensaries, but I think that with so much inundation of calls and email, I think now they're finally understanding that
Yeah,
people are upset. They're upsetting quite a few people in California, and so I think that's why they put the bill into suspension. Um, I don't know exactly his personal stance on it,
yeah,
but I do know that there is a lot of big cannabis players that are supporting this. How you know, what his dealings or his support with them are, I don't know.
Okay.
But I know that it's definitely gonna be more than just a political issue. I know that there's obviously probably a lot of money involved in
Sure.
in this for him, I would imagine. And so it's kind of hard to say. I don't know.
So with our audience here, families, veterans, seniors, as well as people using hemp for health and wellness, myself being one, my mom being another. The participation, what can you urge? What would you like for our listeners to do? One, pass this information off to everyone that it could.
Yeah. So I can send you the information on it if you want to post it after, but
I'll put it.
there's I know Charlotte's Web built a website, and it's called Nation Builder. That one, it's really easy. It's very simple. There's already like a pre-made example of an email, and you can send that, copy and paste it, change it around a little bit, and it lets you email directly to the office of Gavin Newsom. There's also like a petition going around through change.org. There's also, we have a list of email addresses of different um, senators up in Sacramento that you can email, phone numbers and emails. And so that's basically what we've been doing. And so we've been posting on our social media. If people go to our personal Instagram page, our Myriam's Hemp Instagram page, the last few weeks, I would say the last couple weeks, if they look at all of our posts,
Yes,
tons of information on there, and the links are in our bios as
beautiful.
well. So all the links for the Nation Builder, the links for the change.org, and then they can just see all the emails and the phone numbers are posted on there. We just urge people to call because it does make a difference. It really does. We got them to suspend it, which is a
Good.
good thing. But it's not out of the water yet. So we kind of have to keep pushing them to keep it suspended. Because from what I heard from somebody that was there, they're saying, okay, so what solution are you guys going to give us?
Yeah, beautiful.
And so that's where they're at right now. They're like, okay, we want to work with you guys. We're hearing you. We understand, but we need a solution.
What is that solution?
I mean, in my opinion, they can just do the same thing that they've done in other states. You leave out, you regulate that, but you leave out the full spectrum products.
Okay.
You don't categorize them together. But obviously there's more to it. But I know that that's one of and I know that that's something that actually Dr. Goldstein has been communicating with them as well, because I've been in touch with her and she's been giving us updates. So I know that as far as the solution, in talks with that, I know that Dr. Goldstein has had some input on that as well.
Okay.
And
So
Paige Biggie and everybody, but
basically the solution on your end is to keep business as usual, putting out a safe and tested product for families and that families can afford,
right. Well, leave the farm bill alone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like just leave that and then regulate or, do whatever you need to do with this whole Delta 8 issue, but don't lump us in together.
So for our audience, again, participation, you want to urge supporters with the email to send pictures, videos, stories on how these products impact their lives. And then you do have contact information that I'll put in the link to reach out to the governor's office.
Mhm.
And then you can submit your photos and emails as well. And
Yeah.
so,
Because I feel that people don't know. Like, it's funny because when we first started talking about these, people were like, oh, we didn't know, because this has been going on since January that this bill had started.
I haven't heard of it, and I've
Yeah,
been
I had heard about a little bit about it, but
for
yeah,
15 years, and so when you
we
shared
started,
this at the end of the day, it
yeah,
was,
we
it's like,
started hearing more about it when it was getting more traction. But what people don't understand is that sometimes we think, oh, that's not going to affect me. But the thing is, in reality, if you use these products and you live in California, it is going to affect you because companies like us, Charlotte's Web, we're pulling out. We won't even ship to California because it's I believe if you get caught shipping, it's like a $10,000 fine.
wow.
Yeah. So it's not worth it for any of us to do that. And what's really sad is that, you're going to have these families, for example, and this family, John, because you went to Washington with them, Rebecca.
Yep.
Her kids, she has got two kids with special needs, and her kids, I think literally both of them use almost every product that we have. And somebody like Rebecca is going to probably break the law and drive out of state to go get those products for her kids, because both of her kids, Gavin hasn't had a seizure in like 5 years because of this. Casey,
This is her child, not Gavin Newsom, by the way.
right? I'm sorry, not Gavin Newsom. Her daughter Casey,
Yeah.
same thing. Both of her kids have very severe and rare conditions, and so she deals with a lot of stuff with each of them separately. Casey, was going to be put on antipsychotics, and because of these products, she's not on antipsychotics. So and she's just one family. We have a lot of families like that. And so,
been part of your family's, your success stories for a decade now. And, and it's when you were talking about Gavin and Casey, what a shame. 2024, and we're discussing potential cannabis refugees again.
exactly. And Rebecca went with you guys to
DC.
To Washington State before Donald Trump signed the Farm Bill, the year before that the Farm Bill was signed. It was people like her stories that were put in front of these senators.
Real stories.
Real stories, right? And this is real. And so that's a thing. I know she hasn't said this, but I would imagine that Rebecca and her family would probably drive across the state to illegally purchase these products and illegally drive back to California. So this is what you're going to make people do now.
She's
like,
not alone.
crazy.
She's not alone. This happened, and has been happening for years. Family.
Oh yeah.
Before
when it was only legal in California and we were marijuana, John, you remember, because we knew you, we worked with you guys very closely back then. We had back then, it was very common. We had people flying in from Florida, Texas, New York. And
the list could go on. And I still keep in contact with a lot of those families that have done well. And now those states are legal.
Right.
And they said, thank you. You really, I don't want to say guided us, not the right word. We weren't helping them break the law, but California allowed patients and families to come out to California, get a legal California ID to legally obtain, and what they did with that with their family. Dear friend of mine, Mike Hyde, Cash Hyde's father, he shared when Cashy was going through this, that if there was a sign that says federally illegal, you cannot swim in here, but my son was drowning in there, you better believe I'm the first person who's going to jump in that water. And so when a family member is being affected by something like this, they will go to the end of the world to help.
Oh, absolutely. Rebecca has, I talk to Rebecca pretty often. She hasn't said that, but I can almost guarantee that I can't imagine her kids surviving without these products.
Totally. So
yeah. So
well, we will get this information out for you and the rest of the CBD market here in California.
Thank you, John.
We can do a follow-up with this when you stop that bill, and we'll go from there.
Definitely. Well, we're gonna know pretty soon, so fingers crossed. I want to feel positive about it, but I don't want to get my hopes up. But we're hoping that they'll keep it suspended.
We'll do what we can, and so
yeah.
Great seeing you. Thank you for all that you do in this industry. You're not just someone who just pop up into the CBD industry. You have a backstory like Corinne and I have. So thanks, because I know a lot of the families we work with truly depend on what you put out there. So thank you. And
thank you. That if it wasn't for you and you and Corinne actually really helped launch us, so we've always had a spot for you guys in our heart. And Corinne and I go back to the Facebook group days. That's how her and I met. So and, I remember I got connected with her, and you guys were awesome. And but you guys were really a big part of us getting anything going. So we'll never forget that, and that's why we love you guys.
Love you guys as well. And there's a tight knit of people always say, "Oh, you guys were the cannabis pioneers." I said, we weren't the cannabis. I mean, there's people who've been doing this for
Oh yeah, yeah.
decades and decades and decades, and so, but we're still around, and one day we'll be, I guess, the new pioneers as well. But we'll get this out, and we'll keep an eye on this.
Thank you, John. It was nice talking to you.
Great talking to you. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye bye. Thanks, everyone.